Supergirl, the Last Daughter of Krypton. I've done a couple of unpopular opinions for sidekicks such as Robin or Batgirl, and I thought to myself I haven't done it for one of the most popular sidekicks in DC history outside of Robin and Batgirl, which would be Supergirl. A lot of the unpopular opinions do go into conversation about her connection with Clark Kent, how they differ, and how they're very similar to one another, and also this idea on who Supergirl should be today. Should she be Supergirl, or should she finally grow up to become something more? So with that being said, let's get right into the comments and see what some of you had to say. The first comment we are starting with here from smargio says, her becoming a Red Lantern was arguably good for her becoming her own character. I think Supergirl becoming a Red Lantern, even if it was only for a small amount of time, was one of the best ideas they could have done for the character, and in all honesty, it was one of the best arcs in the New 52, because the New 52 had a lot of give and take, a lot of good and bad. It wasn't perfect. What the Red Lantern ring does for Supergirl is I think actually branches out her character a little bit more in the sense of being able to identify who she truly is at heart. Their different backgrounds and their clear as day, stark different upbringings is what would make her to be a little bit more of the aggressive Kryptonian over her cousin in Superman. It does seem DC always tries to rebrand Supergirl in every single continuity and even in between continuities. It doesn't always seem that DC fully knows exactly what they want to do with the character. Hell, I mean, at one point, Supergirl was literally an alien blob from another dimension for the longest of times. However, I think the introduction of bringing the Red Lanterns into her possession was something that, once again, was very needed for Supergirl and could even be something that should be used as time goes on moving forward into the canon continuities of DC. Perhaps a Red Lantern ring is something that she should keep on her and that she does use every once in a while when she feels or deems that it is necessary to use. TheKillerMoth. It is criminal how little Supergirl interacts with the Teen Titans. Like, she has only helped the Titans a very few amount of times, and I feel like she would bring a good dynamic to the team. There is the argument that Starfire already fills the role that Supergirl would, but it would just feel like it would be a nice switch up from time to time to see Supergirl at least help out with the Titans. So I thought this comment was fitting, especially too since our most recent Unpopular Opinions video was on the Teen Titans. If you haven't checked that video out, link will be in the description below. Supergirl, not very often, has ever really been part of the Teen Titans officially. She is not an original member. She's not a member of the cartoon we all love. In the early 2000s, if I'm remembering correctly, she does take part in the Teen Titans quite a bit in that era, that continuity. However, it is overshadowed by a history of Teen Titans comic books and lore where Supergirl has not taken part of it as much as some of these other really popular Teen Titans characters have. I guess every character needs to have their own thing, and not every character can partake within these very popular teams. Putting Supergirl in a Teen Titans team that does have Raven, Starfire, Donna Troy, Wally West Flash, maybe it's a little too powerful at that point. Also, Kara has never really reminded me of a person who definitively wants to be part of the Teen Titans. I don't know if that is too much of her vibe or her fitting, but even in saying that, this does not mean she can't help the Teen Titans or even have a relationship with the Teen Titans in some sort of capacity. Maybe the best spot, at least for the beginning parts of her career when she's a teenager of sorts, is to be side by side with Superman and whoever else is in the Superman family. Then again, there have been different eras of the Teen Titans where you've had someone like Superboy in it, so she could fit if you just wrote it the way you wanted to write it. Bliss and variety. Whenever there's a continuity that adapts the Superman vs. Doomsday, Death is Superman story, Supergirl is never in it. I think it's because of the obvious power imbalance, having two Kryptonians already established established before introducing Doomsday. They'd probably whoop him. But isn't that something you'd love to see at least once? To subvert the threat of Doomsday with, oh snap, Kara's here too, it's over? I know I would. Maybe they will in My Adventures with Superman. In the original Death of Superman story, she doesn't really last long in it, especially too, that is the story where you find out she is some weird alien blob. Doomsday is no joke. I do believe he should be a character that should be able to go up against an entire Justice League anyways, so maybe it wouldn't be too much to handle Kara and Clark by Doomsday's lonesome. What you also could do is you still make it a tough fight. You have Superman and Supergirl get beat up quite a bit, but they do in fact kill Doomsday in the end, only to literally immediately get hit with another event, some other threat that appears right after Doomsday's death that would then threaten not just the death of Superman, but the death of Supergirl as well. What could be bigger than losing the Man of Steel, a symbol of hope? Well, you lose both symbols of hope in one fell swoop. Devil XL. As a character, she's irreparably destined to be considered a second-rated version of Superman. No matter how hard an author may try, she will always live in the shadow of her more famous, more iconic, and most important of all, far more inspiring cousin. She doesn't have anything to stand on her own except being a copy of Clark with boobs. My favorite story arc about Kara was the one written by Jeff Loeb in the 2000s, when Supergirl, feeling outweighed by the shadow of her cousin, decided to cut ties with him, go living on her own, trying to find comfort and a purpose for her life as a normal girl. That might be one of the biggest problems Supergirl has always had, does always have, and will always have. As many people as there will be who will like her as a character, there is bound to be so many other people who don't really care for the character or just like Superman so much better in general. When you create a character like Superman who is so important, who is so inspirational, who is supposed to be the face of all heroes, it is very, very, very difficult to create a sidekick version of Superman who literally wears the same shield on her chest, the exact same colors, and is supposed to stand up for the same things that Superman does, and then to have people say, oh wow, I like that character so much better than the original. That's just not going to happen. It's not going to be topped. And I think that's why the best case scenario here is to take Kara and to mold her into someone who will be different than Superman. Clearly, trying to live up to what Superman is has never worked for her character, and she constantly gets overshadowed because of it. I know when I was growing up, I was really not a big fan of Superman at all. I actually had zero interest in the character until Man of Steel came out, which really got me into the character. However, being younger, not caring about him at all, how do you expect me to all of a sudden care about Supergirl? That was never going to happen. And there are a lot of people still today who don't really like Superman. So if you don't like Superman, it's going to be so much harder, if not even possibly impossible, to get into a character like Supergirl, which is supposed to be matching and comparing to a lot of what Superman is. J94. Personally, I think Supergirl needs to grow up out of the super title and evolve herself, whether that means taking up a new identity or just merging her and Power Girl together. Either way, I believe Kara growing up from Supergirl to becoming Power Girl would be a great coming of age arc, similar to Dick Grayson when he went from Robin to Nightwing. There were actually quite a couple of people who had a somewhat similar comment, transferring Supergirl to one day grow up and become Power Girl. I am a bigger fan of Power Girl than I am Supergirl. Something about the character coming from a different Earth and now needing to build a completely new home and life on another Earth. Also, the fact that Power Girl's relationship with Superman is a little deeper, considering she was almost seen as kind of a daughter figure to Superman in her world, whereas Supergirl with Superman, they were distant for so many years of their life, and they really don't have the connection that Power Girl had with her Superman. Whereas I wouldn't take Supergirl and make her Power Girl at the end of the day, I do understand what some of you are saying. The idea that she can no longer just be Supergirl. She needs to be something else. Even some people here saying that she should be Superwoman, instead of that title being held by Lana Lang or Lois Lane. It belongs far better with someone like Kara, who has spent all her life being a Supergirl to then become a Superwoman. It makes a lot of sense. And at the end of the day, like I said, I do agree with the sentiment though. There is nowhere in history where I've looked at Supergirl being anything but Supergirl. With someone like Dick Grayson, when I think of him as Robin, I think of him just as much, if not more, as Nightwing. Kara does not really have anything like that, and she's missing out because of it. Guardian Tree. Her being a protege of Martian Manhunter fits better than her being trained by Superman. Both her and Jean experienced a loss of known family and world. Meanwhile, Clark was raised on Earth. For all of its faults, the CW Supergirl, having Martian Manhunter be her mentor, was a perfect fit for both characters. So I did not watch the show, tried watching season 1, really could not get into it, but I do know the summary of a lot of this. And yeah, I do think it is actually a really great idea. I do even think that Superman trying to undertake his cousin would be a lot, not just in the sense that she's a lot to handle, but more so in the sense that he cannot connect with her. This is not to say Superman and Supergirl cannot grow together and become family and love one another. More so what it is especially at the beginning, she needs someone to understand what she's gone through. Superman did not see the destruction of his homeworld. Superman did not need to go through that form of PTSD. She has, and there's only one other person who has gone through that as well, Martian Manhunter. They would connect on a whole other level. The Sausage Man. She should have her own team. Some people argue she should be on the Teen Titans. I'm not against that, but I always liked Kara as a more of a cosmic hero, and the Titans are definitely earthbound. I also don't think Legion of Superheroes works permanently. Ideally, I'd make her team essentially what the Guardians of the Galaxy are in Marvel. Put her, a Lantern, a Starro, a normal human, a New God, and maybe Martian Manhunter, or even Blackfire, Keonder, on a team, and boom, instant success. Maybe give her a sidekick. Also, the leather jacket look is a great suit and beats her classic skirt and top. While her leather jacket outfit is definitely doing a lot to differentiate her from just normal Supergirl, it's actually giving her some form of an identity. And I do agree, I'd say over the past couple of years, I've seen her become much more of a cosmic related hero than an earthbound hero, and it would probably be best if, for sure, yeah, have her deal with things on Earth every now and then, but have her priority be the cosmic world. Almost like what Justice League Odyssey tried to do a couple of years ago, where they were a space-bound Justice League. You could do that exact same thing for her, where maybe she or a group of other people do craft a team and make something like this. And really, it doesn't even need to be about the idea of having a team for her to belong in. It's more so about her being in an environment where maybe she feels more at peace and maybe she feels more like herself. And something like this does actually lead me into my unpopular opinion. Supergirl and Superman are not really the same person, at least when it comes to the mentality and experience perspective. Supergirl does not know what Superman has had to go through growing up, but he certainly has no idea what she's had to go through and what she has had to see. Witnessing the destruction of your planet and your people, depending on the continuity too, whether it was the planet failing them or it was some sort of takeover by Brainiac. She has had to live and endure with that horror and that hardship. She lived the most of her life on Krypton, whereas Clark Kal-El was a baby. He, of course, has sympathy to his deceased parents and to the people that he could have potentially called neighbors. Kara lived with them. She knew Krypton as a whole. The loss of her people and her culture does not even remotely come close to how Clark might feel about it. She is a little more hardened than Clark, and I think we need to keep that in mind for her character for good. Sure, she can have her place on Earth. Sure, she can have her secret identity. Sure, as time goes on, she can even find herself being comfortable on Earth. However, I don't think she should view Earth the same way that Clark does. In a sense, Clark views it as a world that was willing to take him in, even knowing who he was. And that is mainly because of John and Martha Kent. That is not the same case for Kara. And whereas she does care for her cousin, she cares for the Kents, she cares for a lot of the people that she will grow up to create relationships with, she does not necessarily feel for Earth the way someone like Superman does. And that should be justifiable and okay. That should be able to differentiate her purpose for why she does what she does. It is for the protection of almost the universe, to ensure that not just Earth, but other homeworlds around the universe don't have to go through what she had to witness with Krypton. Maybe the cosmic world is her home. Maybe to feel comfortable, she doesn't have one place that she can solidify, sit down and say, this is where I belong. Maybe the universe, the galaxy is where she belongs. She should be able to tap into that anger and rage controllably, whereas other Superman family members wouldn't do. That is what can make her maybe stand out amongst the Superman family a little bit more, and as a character in the DC universe. But there you go, everyone. My unpopular opinion and some of your unpopular opinions on the character of Supergirl. With Supergirl's history and origin being so heavily tied to Superman, and seeing as how her future stories usually do tie in to trying to be more like Superman, let me know in the comments below if you agree with some of these hot takes and unpopular opinions, and also leave in the comments below some of your unpopular opinions if you didn't get the chance to post them in the community post. That is all I have for you on this video, everyone. I hope you all enjoyed it, and until the next time, I will talk to you all very soon.